Stand by for a new video from the Cincinnati Kid. Good evening. It is Saturday, December 30th. I hope all of you have had a pleasant holiday season so far and are enjoying time with family. I thank you for taking the time to watch this video and some of my other videos during this time period. I value you all very much, and I love sharing some things with you. Tonight, I'm going to have a small SGC reveal with the theme of reality strikes. And you'll see what I mean here in a couple seconds when I start revealing cards. Just 4 cards for you tonight. It was a small reveal, or a small submission, and probably going to be smaller even in the future, maybe. We'll see. But first off, I'd like to give a big time shout out to Baseball Time Traveler. If you haven't yet gone to check out his first video on the stories he's telling through baseball cards, you're really in for a treat and need to get over there. It is about the 1965 perfect game that Sandy Koufax threw. And I'm telling you, this guy put a ton of work into the production of this video and puts the little measly things I put out here to shame. So get over there and check him out. He is deserving of a watch. I will try to link it below if I can figure out how to do it. And if I don't, I am sorry, Baseball Time Traveler. Also a shout out to Drew at Clean Cheap Shots. He has a 4-part video series out there. I'm sure most of you have seen it by now, but if not, or if you're new to the channel or new to watching some of these videos about ball cards, get over there and to Clean Cheap Shots and watch this 4-part interview with Eddie Watt, former pitcher for the Orioles. And it's just a really neat interview. I will also try to link that over on my channel here or below on this video, at least the first episode of that interview. And you can just tell he just took a lot of time, effort, and genuine love of the player and of just getting to ask him questions. And it seems like Drew's having a lot of fun with that. The stories that Eddie tells is really neat. He also asks some questions that people who come in to watch Drew's channel submitted to him to ask as well. It's really neat. So please check those 2 things out. And I also will mention Drew because he did a recent video of a PSA reveal of some vintage cards there. And maybe the grades came back a little below what he thought they would come at. And he just handled it with a lot of grace and dignity. We could be disappointed about our grades that we get sometimes, but he really did a great job of just maintaining composure about it and just taking it in stride, which is what I hope I'm able to do tonight for everyone here that's watching. So no further ado, it goes 4-card SGC reveal. These are all cards that are vintage from, I have 2 cards from 1975. I have a 1972 and then a 1962 tops. So we'll start from the 75 back, and you're going to see a repeating theme. A lot of these grades are pretty much the same. So first card is this 75 tops 72 most valuable players card. And this card probably was an homage to especially Johnny Bench there, but also Richie Allen, who were MVPs in 1972, and that's an interesting year for me. I have the Johnny Bench card there, but I do not have the Richie Allen card, and part of my goal is to get that 72 tops Johnny Bench autographed by him, and to try to find a 72 tops Richie Allen card that's also autographed by him. That may be difficult, if non-existent, hard to say. But if not, try to find an example and then display them, both of them on display underneath this card. Sort of vintage Double D Dylan style. It's a little bit of an homage to him as well. So anyway, this got the 6. And we can see here that it's pretty well centered, but there's definitely a little issues there. And I'm not sure why I really got this card graded. It probably looked sharper to me than it was in actuality, and that's going to be kind of a continuing theme here. So there's that one. Next one. So this one is, I have to swallow the most pride and try to be as, graceful about this reveal on this card as I can. When I picked this out of the box at my LCS, I just thought, man, this is going to be an 8. There's just no way it's not. And it's 75 Carl Yastrzemski. And you may be able to notice from here that there are some things I definitely missed. Eye appeal presentation is great, clearly, but it didn't get an 8. It didn't even get a 7. It got a 5. When I first saw this card, I was sort of like, man, I don't know. I was obviously disappointed. But the way I try to do things, and I'm not always successful at it, is I don't complain, don't explain. Certainly not in public or on medium like this, and I'm definitely not here. What I am going to do is show you what I think is why I got the 5, and that I think it's a really accurate grade, and I should do better myself on looking at cards I submit. But then also, this is for fun, and just to not lose sight of that this is a card that looks great in this sleeve. I think this looks fantastic. It really pops with the tuxedo border trim. It's like being a picture frame, and that's kind of what it's all about anyway. I'm not looking to sell this card at any point in time for the foreseeable future. But right here, that is it's amazing focus on this iPhone 10 with just one lens. But there is definite, you can tell there, corner, maybe even been bent back. There, also the edge is really rough, and I just didn't do a very good job of noticing or looking at that when I submitted it. There also might be a small bend in there even, so there's a little bit there on that corner it's touched. The centering is not 100%. There's also, if you can notice, it's hard in the light, but maybe that's a little better. A little bit of a ink or paint circle. A little bit of a fisheye there on the dark sleeve of his undershirt, on his jersey, under his jersey, there around his elbow. I don't think there's really anything else of note. There's also some of these little lines on the top. I'm not familiar if that's just a flaw in the card. Those are the cut lines, and it's off a little bit. So probably in the end of, and in the back, at the end of the day, this was a good grade. And trying to come to that point and accepting it for what it is. I do this little thing where I go to work and take a card with me to work. I got a little prop up display in the corner of my cube, and I will sit there, and if a card appeals to me after I've gotten it or I've had it graded, do I have trouble not looking at it during the day, like all day long while I'm trying to work? And this card passed that test. I was staring at it a lot, looking over at it, glancing as I'm working, and I think this is a fair grade, and it is a card that will be in my collection for some time. Next up, 72 Topps. Also an LCS pickup out of the box, Roberto Clemente. And it got the 5. I was thinking 5, 5.5 on this, maybe a 6. I wasn't expecting a lot out of this, and if it was a 4, I would have been okay with that too. Back is really off center, miscut almost, but it's clean. There's a little bit of corner dinging there, but a nice card. Now the final one I'm trying to watch the time. It's at 10 minutes now. I want to keep it short. I don't want to take up too much of your time. It is valuable. This card is a little bit of a story. I had this card a long time. And when I first got it, you can see it's 62 Topps Vada pins, and I'm going to go ahead and reveal the score so I can get it. And I was not expecting it to be more than the way grades are now, a 6. I mean, outside shot a 7, because but I was thinking more in that, you know, if it came back the grade it did come back as, I'd be okay, which is a 5.5. The centering is off enough, I think. But boy, this was a pickup of mine almost 20 years ago. And I've had it and I've had it and I've had it for a reason why it has some really slight white tips on the corners there. But boy, it's hard to find a 62 Topps with these kind of sharp corners, and you can see what my collecting focus was. There's a history here of this card, and I will never let this one go either if I can help it. There's a history here of this card that makes it a bit of one that can see where the focus was on collecting maybe 20 years ago. Corners were huge in vintage cards. I have several cards that are badly off center, but the corners are like razor sharp. That seemed to be focused corners on vintage, and I think that's definitely changed. Not for the better or for worse, it's just things change over time and people's preferences change. Overall eye appeal is important to folks. But these corners, even though the card's not centered, I just love this card. I love the history behind it. I almost didn't get it. This is an eBay purchase that I got like sometime around in December of 2003 maybe, or made the order for it then on eBay, and then never showed up. About a month or two, probably about 2 months in, I sent the seller a message. I said, well, we sent Vada off on the blank date, and they showed proof of doing that, and I was like, okay, I just don't know what to do. I haven't gotten it. 6 months later, it shows up in the mail. The envelope it was in was ripped pretty bad. You could tell where it had been chewed up some, and the card had, when I pull it out, had sort of the consistency, it's hard to see here, but bent like this. Thankfully it was in a top loader, but the top loader was bent almost like this, and the envelope was almost totally shredded. You could see where probably a USPS employee had tried to tape it together and piece together where the address was to send it. So I finally get it, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with this card. I probably with the penny sleeve on underneath it, that it was saved, but you could tell where it was slightly warped. So I spent the next 20 years almost sticking it in a heavy book to flatten it. For about 10 years it was in a book. I kept looking at it. Didn't look good. Still looked like it had some stuff to it. You know, I thought, man, this is the best 62 Topps card I've ever seen or had. And it's okay. After the end of the day, I put it back in the top loader, let it sit for that for like the next 10 years, and I finally pulled it out like, well, do I want to send this off since I've started grading all my cards I've had? And yes, I sent it. And what I like about this grade is, the grade doesn't really matter to me, is that it's a half grade, that they were hopefully mulling over giving it a 6 instead of the 5, but at the very least it was a 5.5, and it wasn't an easy decision for them. But I'm really happy with this card. I'm glad I went ahead and got it put in the nice tuxedo. Well, that's all I have for today. I'm going to go with some more thought. I am still thinking about releasing a top 15 acquisition video of mine for this year, probably maybe tomorrow night or maybe New Year's Day. But until then, this is the kid heading off, saddling up, heading off the highway. Good night.